Hello everybody, welcome to Talks with Adri. Today we're going to talk about the Toltec Legacy, one of my favorites, especially because this is still a living culture that gives us the know-how, the full chart of how to become supernatural. And more than this, to find our own purpose in order to transcend, to evolve. With this tradition, we don't have to look to other ascended masters or to believe that the things are impossible. The opposite. Everything is possible. We don't have to believe, we have to experience it by ourselves. Let's see it. Here in the picture you can see the Teotihuacan pyramids that are 1 hour from Mexico City, more or less. And this place, Teotihuacan, means where the men become gods. And here we have to see many things. The first one, men, we're talking in plural. So many men can become gods. Also, a place where there is no differentiation between men and gods because we can actually be one god. Let's say it was like a factory of gods. How did it work? When I refer to the word Toltecs, I don't mean people from a place. Some archaeologists will say, well, the Toltecs are the people who lived in Tula. Tula was at the center of Mexico, a very developed city. But no, this is not what I refer to. By Toltecs were the men and women of knowledge. These were part of the society, we could say, and these people of knowledge that trained themselves to know about all the mysteries of the world, of the universe, were around the whole Anahuac territory. Anahuac was the word that they used to describe the American continent, from south to the north. And we're going to find that even though there were many different cultures from the south to the north, they all shared the same systems of beliefs. So we're going to see that they didn't believe that there were gods like different from humans. No, they believed that there was a great spirit in everything that was alive. In this conscious of unity, it means that we were all interlaced or together with this spirit, everything that was alive. So that's why they're going to say that the rivers are our sisters, that the animals are our brothers, the trees are our brothers as well, being the sky and the sun, the father, being the earth, the great mother. And that everything that it is alive is in constant evolution. Not only humans, but all the species and everything that it is alive. So this is the philosophy. To be a Toltec is to have this way of living. It's a philosophy and not a religion and not a group of people. This is the first thing that we need to clarify. So this system of beliefs is going to be shared from the indigenous people here in Argentina, up in Central America, Mexico, and also in the Native Americans. It is a system of beliefs that means that we are all connected to this one source. Particularly the Aztecs and the Mayans, these traditions that were in Mexico developed very well under this philosophy. The Toltecs, these men of knowledge, were needed to study since they were very little. When the kids, the first thing that they teach to the kids was the memory. Every morning they ask, what did you dream? Because they were not interested in remembering, like in the same way, intellectual way that we develop our kids right now, that it is by memory, using methods or logically. No, they wanted that the memory go beyond the veils. So it was important that you remember what did you dream. And the more that you remember what you dream, you can determine your level of consciousness. So if the person had a lot of nightmares, you could say or know that this person is troubled. Something in their emotions is happening. If this person has beautiful dreams, it means that her level of consciousness is fine. So it was very important to determine what were the kids dreaming, to see how to orient their education. Then the second thing that they had to remember or to learn was how to control their bodies and their emotions. So they were going to be trained in martial arts, through dances, through fights, many things that they were going to expose their own feelings, and they will have to control it with the mind. Also exposed to meditation practices, to breathing techniques, to dances, and the culture was very, very rich in flavors, in colors, in music, dances, many things. This culture developed in a wonderful way. So marvelous it was that when the Spanish arrived, it is written about the Spanish that it was so beautiful that they couldn't believe, so colored and so developed. But these scripts had to be hidden because if they didn't explain to the Spanish crown that they were not savages, there was no need to go uncolonized and later to impose the Catholicism. So the development of the civilization had to be kept secret or hidden and always in denial. We're going to see that after they passed to this period of being kids and learning about their four bodies, the evolution and the development of the four bodies, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, they could go to universities. The universities were the big temples, such as Teotihuacan, the picture that I showed you at the beginning, where the men became gods. Here they had to pass through very strong tests. They had to be very disciplined. But it was a moment in which their spirit was free or released. So we're going to find many ascended masters, let's say, that came from this tradition because they were able to really enlighten their spirit. Not everybody was able to do this. The society was also divided, and even though there were 7 orders, we have like the most noble ones, which were the eagle warriors, like the first picture that I find here. The eagle warriors were the ones, for example, that went to Teotihuacan, that had to guide their spirit to the realization or to the freedom, and that tap into the cosmogony and into the universe, and they download this information from the Akashic records, this information from the Pleiades, this information from our brothers from the skies and from the stars, and based on this that they download from them or that they received, they are going to make all the precepts and all the rules for the society. We also had the Jaguar warriors, which are the ones that you see here. People are going to say that they were knights, like the eagle knights and the Jaguar knights, but they are going to say we're not knights because in America the horses didn't exist, so they couldn't be knights. That's why they call themselves warriors. And warriors because they have an attitude of fighting, but not against others, but against their own selves, their own weaknesses. Nevertheless, the Aztecs also, like many people, like the humans, when we have power, start misinterpreting the real reason of why they received all this knowledge and all this power. And they started also expanding and conquering the rest of the tribes and of the groups of people around. So let's say that in the spiritual terms, some reach enlightenment, but others use this power in order to continue growing and for personal purposes. The Jaguar Knights or the Jaguar Warriors were the ones who were going to train themselves, especially in the practice of lucid dreaming. And I'm going to explain very clear the difference. The Eagle Knights dominate the tonal, the day. They dominate all the world that you know with your 5 senses. Meanwhile, you are awake. Meanwhile, the Jaguar Knights dominate the world when you go to sleep, which is a different state of consciousness. It's a different perception of the reality that you can also train in order to create your own reality. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The idea was that only by the way that they dressed, for example, here we have a Jaguar Knight, and because they were so trained to be warriors with martial arts, others were already scared of their presence. And actually, they didn't go to many fights because the other tribes or the other towns just surrendered towards how they dressed and towards their attitude. They were completely fearful persons. They were trained to be against 3 or against 5 men and not fearing death. Fight until the end. It was a honor to die for their culture, to die for themselves. And the idea was to reach the flower, the blossoming, let's say, of life, which is the process of enlightenment. And here we have this representation in stone, this statue that means a person that left his spirit through the crown and stayed in this meditative position or posture, which means that he was able to release his energy in order to serve the world, to serve the evolution of the entire universe. Let's see how it was done. The Toltecs end up their practices, or at least in a legal way, when the Spanish conquer Mexico. Basically, Cuauhtémoc, the last emperor, he says, okay, now it is time for all our tradition, all our secret, all our knowledge, all our wisdom to go to sleep. But in the period of the sixth sun, the knowledge will return. This is written in the Zócalo, in the main square of Mexico City, said by Cuauhtémoc in 1521. Later, all what they knew had to be hidden, because the Catholicism came very strong, and if they didn't follow what the Spanish wanted to bring, the new belief system, the systems of belief, they were going to go and face the Saint Inquisition, which was very, very strong in Mexico and in the whole Latin America. And in the north, the Native Americans also faced like these Protestants, reformist people who also didn't accept their beliefs. They were also considered savage. So their practices, their cosmogony, and this cultural diversity had to be hidden. They continue practicing, but let's say in a syncretistic way, mixing with the new beliefs, with the modern world, or completely hiding. Now it is the time of the sixth sun, as we have seen. So, since the 1970s, we have people such as Carlos Castañeda that has published many, many books, beautiful, amazing books that talks about the practices of the tradition. Don Miguel Ruiz, which is from the US. Carlos Castañeda was from Peru, a Peruvian guy, but he studied in the United States and he published his books in English. Don Miguel Ruiz in the United States published his books in English and Spanish, and Sergio Magaña that has published his books in many languages, including Polish, Chinese, and obviously English, Spanish, and so on. Let's talk about the cultural values. Every culture has its own values. For example, the Greeks, they said you have to develop the mind and you have to develop your body. And we kind of agree or follow this path because our system of beliefs comes from the Greek and Roman belief system. The Chinese are going to say, be wise and live a long life. So for them, the old men were going to be like the most important in their society because they consider them wise. For the Hindus, they are going to say, live in detachment towards everything so you can reach enlightenment. And detachment will mean that they are not going to care about how is the house, how are the material things, the clothing and everything, because the idea is to reach enlightenment. In the modern world, the system of values is going to say, okay, if you want to be successful, what you have to do is be economically wealthy and be admired by others. But in any culture, it's very difficult that most of the people really reach these systems of beliefs. It is like a place or like a goal that you want to reach, but hard to reach. So there are many people that are going to live in frustration because it is something that it is imposed by the society. And most of the time, something that it is fake, that it is not what makes evolve your spirit. So the Toltec tradition are going to say, there is only one thing that it is common to all of us, and it is to discover your own purpose. How? The value of the Toltec society or the Toltec practitioners is live unconditional love. Vibrate with this frequency. How to do it? It is a way of living. It is a decision that you consciously take. And when you vibrate in the heart chakra center, when you connect with everything that it is around, a universe, many doors open to yourself, and you can reach and develop your own purpose. It is not the purpose that everybody has to reach. You have to develop your own purpose, you have your own task, you have your own commitment, and you have your own way of evolution. This is the Toltec Legacy. The Toltec Legacy is that if you open your heart, if you vibrate in a frequency that it is 528 hertz, you are going to be able to overcome the cultural values. So we are not going to identify ourselves with the cultural values because that is not real, that is not the truth. We are going to deny our personality or give it up because our personality is full of dramas, is full of fears and emotions. So if we overcome the cultural values, if we face our fears, if we dominate our emotions, and if we follow our heart, because that is the vibration that we're using, then any person can reach his own purpose, his own enlightenment, or his own evolution. This is the Toltec Legacy. It is a way of living that teaches you that if you change your mind, if you change your perception towards things, you are able to live from your heart, not caring about the external world, and you are going to be able to free your spirit with two very easy ways, with love and with happiness, because that's all what you have to do, tap into your heart. And then this is what it is called the Quetzalcoatl's path or the warrior's path. Why the warrior's path? Because it is not an easy way to do. Overcoming only your fears is already very hard because you have to face them. Dominate your emotions is something that it is already very hard. That's why it is a warrior's path. It's something that you have to do all your life. And that is when you're going to be able to turn into the feather serpent, which is Quetzalcoatl, that represents the serpent that crawls on earth, but feather is able to fly and experience a perception of the heaven. That is basically the Toltec perspective. And Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan is the feather serpent for the Mayas, and Quetzalcoatl is the feather serpent for the Aztecs. Was an ascended master, was a person who came to earth and showed them this way, the way of the heart. So the Toltec Legacy will explain how to dominate the emotions. And to dominate the emotions, the first thing that you have to do is change the perception, change the way that we perceive the world. And for this, we're going to talk about the 4 agreements that Yolanda was sharing with us. And not only the 4 agreements, but 5 agreements. So the first one is don't make assumptions. What is to make an assumption? Thinking that the other person is thinking in something. So no, you have to be very clear with your language. You have to ask, take the courage to ask what the other person is thinking. And with this, you are going to avoid many dramas, many misunderstandings. Because one of the things that makes your energy to reduce is the conflicts with other persons. If you have a clear communication, very assertive of what you want, and you ask what is exactly what the other person is thinking or acting in this way instead of doing assumptions, you are not going to waste that energy. So it requires a clear communication. Don't take anything personal. Why you shouldn't take anything personal? Because taking things personal is from the ego. Is when I think that everything that you do or everything that you think or act or say has to do with me. At all. The people say the things according to their personal interpretation of the world, to their own universe. They have their own story. And that's why they see the world in that way. But it is only one little piece of the puzzle of the whole reality. I can listen to you, but I shouldn't take it personal, because that is your own world, your own creation, your own reality. In this way, I will end up with my suffering. Be impeccable with your words. Where you are impeccable with your word means that you are really meaning what you're saying. It's not just saying to say things. It's better that you remain in silence if you're not going to say something wise and something that is going to use the word for the capacity or ability that it really has, which is the creation of a moment, of an instant, of an idea, of a situation. What you say is going to create. So be very careful in how you use the words. For example, the Egyptians used to carve very deep into the stone what they wanted to last for long. Actually, we still have their messages because it was the creation. And when they carved it, they didn't know that later civilizations were going also to understand their beliefs and to create things related to what they were just expressing. So it is very important that you have a very clear message and use the words wisely. The fourth one is always do your best. If you always do your best, you will have no regrets, you won't have any guilt, and you are going to increase your level of energy because you are evolving. You are doing things every time better and better. Let's say that I am a person that likes to say lies, to tell lies. If I decide that from now on I'm going to change and I'm not going to tell more lies, every time that I consciously do this, I'm learning until at the end I don't even want to tell a lie. So do the best that I can is a way of evolving. And the fifth agreement is be skeptical but learn to listen. Be skeptical. You have to doubt everything that you hear from other persons and everything that you hear, including of your own mind. And this is very important because our mind deceives us. Our mind betrays us. Our mind sometimes sabotages us. So we have to doubt. And the way to know if I am in the truth or not, it is checking the intention. What is the real intent behind the words? What is the real intent behind what I have in my mind? For example, my heart wants that I make peace with a person that I have a conflict with. But my mind is saying, oh, do you remember when this person offend you? Do you remember when this person say this? Do you remember when this person omits this other thing, when this person ignore you? Your mind is playing a trick because your heart, what you really want, your intention is to make peace with this person. But that is not what is happening. What is happening is that you are fighting more because your mind is in a different direction from your heart. So always listen well, but check what is the intention behind the message. And that is the fifth agreement. And these are agreements, are just things that you decide to do. It's your option. It's not something that it is imposed or that you have to believe. No, it's my decision to be a better person. And if we accomplish these agreements, you are going to be able to dominate your emotions. But remember, it is a warrior's path, which means that you need to be stalking all the time, in awareness all the time. They knew that if they were able to maintain their energy pure, they were going to raise up the vibration of all the energetic centers. So the Toltecs are going to talk about the chakras as well. They have different names, but they believe in all these frequencies that our body emanates, and they are going to say that we have different 7 bodies. We have the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, the spiritual body, and there is something that is called the assemble point. The assemble point, what it's going to do is basically change our perception. And in that moment, I'm going to be able to use my spiritual mental body, my spiritual emotional body, which are the other bodies that I also have. The bodies that I can use when I'm dreaming. The idea of the development or the evolution of a human through the Toltec tradition or through this philosophy is that you are able to transcend your emotions, raise up your energy of all your energetic bodies or energetic centers, and that you are able to change the perception, shift the assemble point, so you can have a wider perception of the reality and not the only one that you receive through your five senses that usually are fake. This is not the truth, and that's why they're going to say that we live the dream within the dream. Okay, now after you dominate your emotions, because this is the know-how of how to do it. Let's say that I already accomplished the 5 agreements, and because I already put them into practice into my life, I have more energy. I vibrate with a higher level of consciousness. So I am ambitious and I want to reach liberation or freedom. Freedom of what? Of this physical body, because my spirit is much more than only this physical body. How to do it? Well, they use to train their minds to reach different level of consciousness or different waves in the brain that allow you to touch different realities. Induced in these different perceptions of reality. How to do it? Through their warrior dances. So they dance and they dance. For example, there were practices that they danced for 3 days without stopping, and through this they were in a journey. And during these 3 days, they don't eat anything, they don't drink anything, they don't sleep, and they don't get tired because they are using their energy to contact these other realities. They also hold postures like the asanas in yoga. They also use breathing techniques. They also work with the obsidian mirror. And here, let me show you a picture of the obsidian mirror, the one that you see there, or the one that I have here. The obsidian mirror was like a magical thing for them, because in here you don't see your reflection as perfect as it is. And if we remember the myth of creation of the Toltecs and the Mayans, it is said that the gods covered our eyes to really see the reality how it really is. So we are going to always have something banished, a veil that we have to go through it. And the practices with the obsidian mirrors allows you to see through the veils. We are also going to have the lucid dreaming techniques, which are very powerful, and some of you know that we have like a whole system of how to go into lucid dreaming. It's very powerful techniques, but it's something that you have to study and be disciplined with. They also had cleansing baths. They used also allied plants, and that's why maybe you have heard about the ayahuasca, the peyote, many plants or funguses, let's say, that alter the states of consciousness and allows you to see different realities. But I'm not talking about being just drunk or being just high. That is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about the possibility of seeing all these realities, to amplify your perception, and therefore to understand a little bit more why you're here and how to evolve, what is your purpose, and how you can serve with that purpose the evolution of all what you see. And the rebirth therapies, which were the temazcals. So here you have this dome that you see here. It's to be able to perform a ceremony of the temazcal. In these ceremonies, that dome that you see represented Mother Earth. So what you do is that you go inside the womb of Mother Earth. This is completely dark. They put stones, and remember that we are connected with everything, so the stones have a spirit. These volcanic stones, they were they call them the grannies or the grandmothers, because they have been here in Mother Earth for eons, and we're going to die and they're going to still be here, and they are going to keep a lot of the information and the records of Mother Earth, and they are going to hit these stones, and they are going to come very hot inside of this dome where you are. You cannot be stand up in the dome, you have to be in special positions, almost fetal positions, and you're going to stay there in complete darkness, facing this heat, strong heat, for 2 hours, 3 hours. What all these do is that you face your fears. You reach different state of consciousness. When I practice these Temazcal methods, it's basically really to rebirth. I was giving up my personality, I was giving up many things, my belief system, and all this happens in the subconscious, but you become a different person that it is more lighter, that you don't care too much about what you cared before. And I also presence many healings in this Temazcal. For example, a person who had lost a baby, and the first instance that she entered into the Temazcal, into this dome, was a terrible pain here. And the person that was guiding the ceremony helped her to release the pain that became physical, to become conscious, but it was a pain, a wound in her energetic body of losing this baby. A sadness, a profound sadness, an attachment, something that she was not okay, and the soul of her baby couldn't also leave completely this world because she was so attached to him. So it is a process, and all that happens in the rituals of this tradition happens in multi-dimensional situations. Many beautiful healings and everything. The idea is that during your life, you're able to heal all the aspects of all your different energetic centers. And when we open the energy of all the centers, then you are ready to die and to reach enlightenment.